Okay, have a stand. If you want to use your weights for the warm-up, you can, or have them handy for the main body bits of the class, whichever you prefer. I'll bring you a bit closer actually, long way away. Okay, so take a moment, let's just have a rock backwards and forwards. Feel that grounding through the mat till you feel like you've explored the whole of the soles of the feet, from the heels to the toes, rocking backwards and forwards through, and then lower the heels and just create that little space underneath the arches of your feet. Soften through the knees and start growing tall, lengthening your tailbone to the mat, connecting your ribs here at the fronts and the crown of the head towards the ceiling. We'll start with just arms, out breathing an arm up, and then in breathing back down. Alternating sides. So all the time thinking about your shoulder girdle position, try and keep the shoulder tops away from your ears, but also think about that rib cage connection so that you don't lift and flare. You're not throwing yourself back into your low back. You're trying to really work with shoulder movement. Out breath up. In breath down. And then when you're ready, start adding in the opposite knee bend. So you're coming up onto your toes, bending at the hip and knee, keeping the pelvis lovely and level. Out breath up. As you blow it out your mouth, then in breath up your nose. Keep going for a couple more. Just connecting, focusing in. Making the next one your last. Good. And we'll stay in the narrow stance to do our foot series. So we'll start by coming up onto both tiptoes, finding steadiness, keeping all that lovely length, openness through the fronts of your shoulders, then lower down, keeping the back straight. Press the heels into the mat and come up. If you're adding the arms, then just float them to shoulder height, hold them there while you lower yourself back down, press and come back up. So the back stays straight as if you're sliding down a wall behind you. Good. And as you press those heels into the mat, you're getting a nice stretch into your calf muscles. Let's do one more before we reverse it. So our balance and coordination getting a challenge. So you lower yourself back down, just stretching those calf muscles, then lift the heels, press up and lower. Down, lift, push and lower. Challenging your balance when you come up onto your tiptoes, as you stay nice and upright. Keep going. We'll just do one more here. And then rest. And we'll take it wider next. And we'll do some mermaids but in a wider stance. So just soft into the knees, keeping the hips open, those glutes engaged, pressure through your heels. In breath and arm up. Out breath, over to the side. And just stay in that side stretch while you breathe in. And then come back up. Good. Again. Other side. Breathe in to try and deepen the side stretch. Keep the weight equal between both feet though. We're not pushing across the side as we would with the side plie stretch. We're keeping the weight equal, and it's a side bend through the waist. Last couple. And up. Good. That's what it's moving. We'll come down to the mat. Keep your weights. We're going to do double leg stretch first, and if you want to add them, you can. Okay, so have a lie down onto your mat. Find your rest position, neutral spine. Take a moment just scanning through the body from the top down. Lengthen the back of your neck, gentle chin tuck. Open the fronts of your shoulders and feel your shoulder blades. You're resting on them behind. Just soften your rib cage back onto the mat behind you. Make sure that your belly button and pubic bone are about level with each other here. And your feet are comfortable, hip distance apart. So yeah, if you're using the weights, hold them in your hands for side, and we'll just start with overhead arms. Out breathing them to their start position, pointing towards the ceiling. And on the next out breath, slowly lower them overhead. Just using that shoulder joint range, and then in breath back. So the main watch point here is that your ribs aren't lifting up and away from the mat. You're keeping them strongly connected at the front to the hip bones at the front. And that they're just soft and heavy on the mat behind you. And then when you're ready, just add the leg. So you're sliding away with one leg at the same time as both arms go overhead. Out breath away, moving from the centre of the body, and then in breathing back. So feeling, focus in on the fronts of your hips as that heel slides away, as the front of your hip tight. Allow it to open, but don't let it pull your low back from the mat. Lots of movement through the big joints. Keep that centre of your body position consistent. Keep going for a couple before we take it to the next level. Good, so rest the arms down. Of course, you can do that same sequence again at that level, or our level 2 is to bring the legs up now. So our first exercise in tabletop, one leg at a time, the legs float up so that you've got good, strong, neutral spine position. Out breath your arms, point to the ceiling, and we'll start lowering them overhead with a push away of the leg. Out breath away, alternate legs. Be mindful to keep that low tummy really flat and drawn back. Try and lead by your pelvic floor. You're drawing up and in, inside, helping to focus the abdominal effort deep down below your belly button. And if it becomes too strong in your back, or you feel your abdominals aren't staying flat, they're popping, and just bring the feet to contact with the mat again and slide away. You go for a few more there if you can. One more to each side. Good. And bring those arms back down and the legs. All right, check in with your neutral spine, make sure that's still good. And we'll take it to our hip twists. So level 1 to start with, just out breathing in the out to the side. In breath back. Just tuning in to your rotation control. Allowing your hip joint rotation while the pelvis stays completely level. Hip bones pointing at the ceiling like headlights on the ceiling. When you've got it and you feel you want to progress it, you can hover your arms with or without your weights. Keep that pelvic floor engaged and leading the way. Every time you breathe out, through your mouth, lift up with the pelvic floor. And we'll do a couple more at this level and then take the option to bring it to level 3. Good. Rest your arms. And then you can bring the legs back if you want to. Okay, now working here, leave the arms light on the mat. Shoulders stay open, nice and soft through the upper body. Out breath and leg out to the side. The whole leg, the whole weight of that leg is moving away from the midline of your body. So your foot stays hidden behind your knee. Your goal is the same, to keep the hip bones pointing straight ahead, up at the ceiling. So your body doesn't roll from side to side. Try and keep your arms light, the body soft. And breath out. And breath back. Are you going for a couple more? One more to each side. Lovely. And bring it back to the mat. All right. We're going to do some abdo preps. So again, it's just checking in with your neutral spine, because it's crucial that you maintain that. When you bring the head and shoulders up off the mat, that you don't shut this space down. So it's ribs towards hips, not tipping back into that low back space. If you want to support your head to protect your neck, then you can put your hands behind your head instead of your head support. Otherwise, arms alongside. We're going to out breath them to hover. Have another breath in here, then out breath forward. Head and shoulders off the mat, ribs to hips, looking between your thighs. Out breath back down. You're breathing in while you're holding forward there. You can keep imagining that peach underneath your chin, so you're not ramming your chin down onto your chest, but you're not leaving your head behind either. And if you want to add to this, you can lift and lower the arms while you're forward there. While you're breathing in, and then go down. Good. And then let's do some quicker ones. Straight into them if you can. Out breath up, in breath back down. Keeping the arms hovering Or bring them to support your head if you need to. No time to put them down. If those hands are behind your head, keep the elbows out wide. Just keep your head heavy in your hands rather than pulling on it. Just support the weight of it. So the pull still comes from your abdominals, creating the ribs to hips movement. Last couple. And then rest. Good. And you can leave that head support out or take it out now. Bring your heels closer to your bottom. We'll do some shoulder bridging. So just take it easy with the shoulder bridging to start with. If you haven't done any for a little while, we'll make sure that we focus on really getting these glutes engaging before trying to bring it to a one leg version. So first couple of bridges, tipping back into your low back space, focusing on your spinal movements as you peel up and away from the mat. Think about your sitting bones drawing towards each other, engaging those glutes, pelvis nice and level, out breath back down the way you came. So moving on the out breath, peeling up, creating as much spinal movement as you can, focusing on any stiff areas. And if you're ready and you want to, then you can work towards your one leg versions. Keeping the pressure through the heel of the standing leg, the other one lifts and straighten at the knee. Good. You can start by coming down between sides, making sure you reset that bridge every time. Or if you're ready and you want to, you can keep the hips elevated and alternate sides. Just try and focus in, make sure it is all glute work as much as possible, not your low back overworking and not your hamstrings. Keep the arms light on the mat. Pelvis nice and level, keeping it elevated. Coming down if you need a break, because you can always go back up again. You go for a couple more. Last one here. Whichever you're doing, make that your last. And replace your spine to the mat. Give yourself your head support back. And give your knees a hug in. Lovely. Okay. Coming back down then, onto our sides, and we'll start with lift and lower. So we want to be out in one long line. I'll turn this off actually, it's a bit noisy. Okay, so creating that line, shoulders, hips and heels, just so that you can see your toes when you look down at them. Make sure you're on stacked hips here. With that top one very slightly angling more forward than you might think. We'll take a breath in and then out breath the top leg up. In breath back down. So focus in on your hip joint. Make sure that's what's making the movement happen. Don't want to be hitching through the top waist or collapsing into the lower waist either. Out breath up. In breath down. Keeping that top hip forward but the leg back in line with your body. Seeing if you can manage without the hand in front. Keep it very light if you're using it. Remember, soft upper body, nice and open through the shoulder. Good, last couple. We'll take it up to the top again just to do some little pulses. So to the top, where you think that's your hip range, and then lift that little tiny squeeze more without hitching or tipping through the pelvis. Last couple, and then lower. Good, we'll do that one more time. Now breath up. Have a breath at the top there, and keep breathing while you pulse it. Don't hold your breath. And lower. Good. And you can give both knees a little bend. Give your hip a stretch before we bring it to our side kicks. And when we do side kicks, you can keep your lower leg bent and just take the top one straight. As much bend through the lower leg as you need. Remember, it gives you support. So the less you use, the harder you'll make it for yourself. More challenging. Okay, keep those hips stacked. Straighten the top leg out. At hip height, have a breath in. And then out breath it forward. Sliding it at hip height. And then sliding it back again. So out breath forward as you sweep with a hinging hip. And then in breath back, opening that hip, stretching the front of it, engaging the glutes. Keep going. If you want more challenge, like I said, straighten the lower leg out. If it's too difficult, if the leg is feeling too heavy to hold, you can do it with a bent leg, with a bent knee. And focus on hip movement with the leg feeling a little less heavy. Otherwise, a couple more if you can. Good, make this your last. And then rest. Oh, good, they're feeling heavy at the moment, aren't they? Okay, but we can leave them bent because we're going to do some arm openings next. So this time with your hips and knees bent, if you're comfortable and you want to, you could put your head support between your knees when you use your bigger one for your head now, with the arms out in front and a weight in your hand if you want to. So shoulders, hips and heels are in a line, arms are out in front, hips and shoulders are stacked. Have a breath in. And then out, breath up and over. Good, watching that hand go over. And now it's the centre of your chest that's starting to face up to the ceiling. And if you gently squeeze on that cushion between your knees, keep your knees down. And then breath back up. It'll just help you fix your pelvis to create as much movement through the upper back and chest as you can. The weight, if you're using it to over-pressing your chest and upper back movement, not overstraining your shoulder. Keep that shoulder joint strong. Good, last couple. Last one here. And then come back to rest. All right. Have a push up into sitting. The plan is to do some saw, but if you would prefer to stick with spine twists, then sitting spine twist is fine. If you're doing saw and you want to sit on your larger cushion, we'll start with some hamstring stretches. So just use that cushion to slightly tip you forward by sitting on the front edge of it. Good. One leg out in front of you, the other one bent in. Grow really tall to try and maintain the length in your spine and fold from the hip. So it's like you're hinging forward to try and isolate the stretch as much as possible to the back of the thigh with the ankle relaxed. Ease down into it with your breath. You'll be stretching your back as well. Depends where you have most tightness. Keep breathing, just keep easing down. Don't rest your hands on your knees, just above or below. Good, and then walk it back up. All right, and we'll switch sides. Same thing, folding forward. Super. Walk it back from there. All right, and this is where you can cross your legs if you prefer, or take them both out. We'll do a few twists to get started, and then with the option of taking it to saw if your back's okay with that. So starting low with the arms, just twist for a breath in, back to center, for a breath in. Good. Carry on like that, or for our full saw, the shoulder tops are down, arms out to the side, center engaged, keeping those hips pointing forward. In breath around, out breath, reach for the toes. Back up and untwist. Twist and reach. Fingertips to opposite toes. The back arm stays nice and elevated behind you. Don't let it drop down. Keeping that full twist on. Good. One more to each side. Moving on every element of the breath. Shoulder tops, just check that they haven't crept up. This is our last one. Coming back. Good. All right. And we'll bring it back down onto the mat. What we'll do is we'll stick with the upper back. So that we start with arm openings. Cushion between your knees if you want to. The other one out under your head, so your arms can be out in front. Shoulder tops away from your ears. And when you found good position, out breath up and over. Lovely, last couple. And then rest. All right, and we'll bring it over onto our tummies. Let's start with some swimming. Weights, if you want to use them, you can with the arms overhead. Take a moment though, positioning your forehead on your support so that you can breathe. Length through the back of your neck. Length through your low back by gently tucking your tailbone, but with the glutes soft. And we'll start with the arms. So draw your shoulder tops away from your ears. Have a breath in. Pelvic floor engage. Out breath and arm up. In breath back down. So that we're alternating sides. Just the arms lifting to start with, keeping the pelvis nice and level, the body not rolling from side to side. And then when you're ready, if you want to, start lifting the opposite leg of the arm. So you are engaging the glutes now on that side that you're lifting. The leg as straight as you can manage. So the lift comes from the hip, aiming to get the front of the thigh to clear. All the time keeping that alignment through the body, so the crown of the head and the tailbone working towards opposite sides of the room. Lengthening away. You go for a couple more. One to each side now. And then rest. Lovely. We're just pushing back to full point kneel. 4-hour leg pull-in prone preps. Hands under the shoulders, shoulders away from your ears. Look between your hands. Hips are over your knees. And tuck your toes under. So starting with a couple at level 1 to get us going, and then when you want to, if you want to, progressing. Your in breath and your pelvic floor engage. Feel your low tummy involved, and then out breath into hover. Breathe in to hold and lower. All right, so just warming up into our plank preps, ready for the full plank. And when you want to, if you want to, take the hands further forward of the shoulders, the hips still start over the knees. Out breath up and slide into that full plank. And you can stay and hold an extended arm plank if you want to, focusing on your body position, your breath control. Just lovely static strength in this position, or you can keep coming back out. I think that working dynamically like this is actually more challenging for movement control, but also more functional, because we're not very often needing to be still in that position. Let's try a couple more before we take it to our push-ups to finish. Okay. Have a little rest. Give your wrists a stretch and a move, and decide whether you want to try some full press ups to get started. We did it before, where you start with a couple of full press ups and then bring it to your knees when you need to. Or if you want today to start in box or in modified push-up position, just whatever's right for you. Entirely up to you. All right, but if you are coming back into that full push-up position, come into it the way we did there, with the toes tucking, hovering the knees and sliding into that extended plank. And then if you want to try some little dips through the elbows, in-breathing down so that you can out-breath back up. Just keep the pelvis nice and strong. Don't let it dip. It's your elbows bending and your chest lowering. That's the dip. And then when you need to, you can lower the knees down, cross your ankles and carry on. Keeping the hips, the pelvis in a line, that diagonal line, shoulders to knees. Still in-breathing down, out-breathing back up. Lowering your chest towards the mat. Maintaining a long diagonal line. Good. Finish up. If you want to, with a few more in box. This time hinging at the hips to lower your chest. Last couple if you can, or rest when you need to. And when you're done, have a push back to stretch. All right, and from here we'll bring it to our knees just so we can stretch out the hips and shoulders. So in high kneeling. Sorry, I need to adjust the screen as well. Take a step forward with one foot. That's it. So your knee and opposite foot are hip width distance apart. Your hip bones, or those pelvic bones, are pointing straight in front of you. Gentle tuck on your tailbone and then slide into the stretch. Open up this back hip. And we'll bring the shoulder in for a tricep stretch. So the back side arm, elevate it, bend it, and then hold onto that elbow to overpress. And release and push back. Okay, swap sides. Same thing, lengthen first. Stay nice and upright as you slide forward. Feel the stretching through the front of the back hip and then out the arm. And push back. And from your knees there, just tuck your toes under. Lift your bottom up. We'll have a final forward fold here.
Just pressing the knees gently back, one at a time, or together if it's not too strong. Breathe in at the bottom. Hand out, breath to rebuild. All the way, head floating up.
Good. Well done.